In today's video, we're going to be pulling the drive shaft on my Prevost and hopefully solving the drive shaft vibration I got. First off, I got to apologize for the bad lighting. I am here under my bus in between the tag axle wheels next to the drive shaft, so there's not exactly very good lighting back here. When I was driving my Prevost home from Arizona, I noticed that it had a vibration that was associated with speed. It was a higher vibration frequency, and that it also specifically seemed to occur during coasting, and it went away at full throttle, and then somewhere in between it would vary depending on how much load there was on the engine. This is a very typical kind of a drive shaft vibration. If you have a wheel vibration where a wheel's out of balance, you're going to have a fairly low frequency vibration, because if you think about the speed that the wheel goes around, every time that wheel goes around, that's where you're going to have a forcing function that causes your vibration. The drive shaft on this, it's got a 456 gear, so the drive shaft is spinning roughly 4.5 times the speed of the wheels. So this is a much higher frequency vibration, and so if you have a high frequency vibration that's speed related, and specifically making sure that it's not engine speed related, we're talking vehicle speed here, usually that's going to be a drive shaft vibration. If you have a vibration that seems to be based with engine speed, so if it changes gears, the vibration is going to change. That's usually something going on with the engine. And if it seems to be increasing with more load, that can be something like an injector, dead cylinder, something like that. This was very much not that. This was very much a drive shaft vibration. So I knew that when I got home, I was going to need to take a look at it. And so let me show you what I found. It's probably going to be hard to see for sure here, but now we're looking forward on the bus. Remember, it's a rear engine diesel pusher, so we're looking at this big giant rear axle here. Here you've got the U-joint, and if you look carefully, you'll see that that cap for this U-joint seems like it's a little bit off of the flange, or the yoke. I mean, if you look here, it's closer. I also see that there's what looks like some grease leaking out of this one. So I'm definitely seeing something that's not right. Maybe the drive shaft was removed and it just wasn't put in properly or something like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pull this and get and take it to a drive shaft shop to have them inspect it, and probably just go ahead and replace the U-joints on it. Up here at this yoke, you have to take out these bolts on either side that hold the caps in place, and then push it out, which I guess we'll see how much fun that is. Here at the transmission, you've got these 12-point bolts that go in, and so you just have to take those off, and then the drive shaft should come out fairly easily from this side. At least so goes the hope. I'm going to spray some Croil on everything here before I try to take them out, and hopefully that will help loosen anything up, and definitely hopefully not break anything, because that would make everything a really bad day. Well, I actually decided to just see if the bolts would come out easily without spraying them down with any kind of penetrant, and they did, but you can also immediately see the problem I've got going on. So this was the cap that was on this side that I said looked like it was bulged out and not fitting right. Well, it came right off, and for comparison to the other side, that came out. This also came out quite easily, but you can see that this is supposed to be attached. So gonna have to, I guess, try to pry up the drive shaft and see if I can get this cap out so that I can get the rest of the drive shaft out. Fun. Well, kind of as I figured, that top cap is in there pretty stuck. So what I did was I got the drive axle tires off the ground, made sure that the parking brake was unlocked so that I could rotate the drive shaft so it's straight up and down. What I now have is a socket with a floor jack, and I'm hoping that that will provide enough force to get that loose and get it out so that I can pull the drive shaft out. But I'm not super confident that that is going to work. So let's put it here and see if it works. I'm going to get out from under the bus, both so I can use the jack and so that I am not nearby if something goes wrong. Oh, come on. Oh, come on, don't do that. Well, that's what I was afraid was going to happen. Looks like the axle is coming off of the ground, and that cap is lodged in place. And that is why I didn't want to be there. Okay, time for the next option to try. It's a new day, and if it looks like I've been working on stuff all day, that's because I have been. So let me catch you up on what's going on. You may have noticed yesterday that when I was working on getting my drive shaft out that I was missing a few things, like my airbags. I'm dividing these things up into different videos to make them easier to find and hopefully help more people that are trying to solve a particular problem on their Prevost. But I'm working on replacing all of the airbags on my bus, and at the same time I'm also needing to pull the drive shaft to address the vibration that we're discussing in this video. What I tried to do was get the drive shaft out, and the one drive shaft U-joint cap on the side at the differential was seized in place. I couldn't get it out. So I then tried getting the wheels up off of the ground so that I could then rotate the input yoke on the differential, get it straight up and down, and I tried using my floor jack to push it up. That didn't work, and what ended up happening was that the rear axle was trying to come up off of the ground. Well, it did come up off of the ground because I had no airbags in place. The rear axle with the wheels and tires on it probably only weighs about 1,000 pounds, give or take. Anyway, the point is it's a whole lot less than the bus that weighs, say, 50,000 pounds. So I have the airbags back in now. I've got them aired up. And so what I've also done is I've put my bottle jack in underneath the U-joint with a socket again, like what I was doing with the floor jack. But essentially, when it's pushing up now against the U-joint, it's going to be pushing up against the full weight of the bus coming through the axle and the airbags, as opposed to just pushing up against the axle weight. That cap being seized in worth 1,000 pounds of force, I believe that 20 tons of force, well, that's probably a little bit less likely. That's enough to lift the entire bus. But if it does, then that means things are really bad. So what I'm going to do now is get the airline hooked up to the bottle jack. Since it's an air over hydraulic bottle jack, I can still stay off to the side and just watch things from a safe distance. And let's see if this comes out. All right, I think that works. I value the safety of my body a whole lot more than the safety of my GoPro. So let's give this a shot. Boom! All right, that looks like that did it. So let's get the bottle jack out and get the cap out the rest of the way. See if hopefully the yoke on the differential is not galled up, and I'll still be able to put a cap in easily. Okay, I've got the top cap off over there now. That came out easily once I had popped it out. Got both of the little holding straps down on the transmission, so let's see how easily this comes out. And not at all seems to be the answer. These U-joints look like they were greased on the first of never. What am I missing? Nothing. They're just in there hard. There we go. One down. Okay, now to try to get this the rest of the way out, because the slip yoke portion on the slip portion on the drive shaft is not very long, so I may actually have to unbolt this catch loop here to be able to get it out the rest of the way. Let's just take a look and see. Okay, I think I missed a little bit there on the video, but I was able to wiggle it around, get it out through the yoke, and now it should slide through-ish, or so. Pretty sure I've had lighter weight transmissions. And here you have it. I got the drive shaft out. I did have to take out that drive shaft catch hoop, and then it came out just fine. Before I go throw it in the truck and take it to the drive shaft shop, this is the transmission side, and this side moves fairly freely. You got about this much that's freer, and then it's a little bit more effort towards the ends. If you go over to this side, it's that much that's very free, and then beyond that it's significantly harder. My guess is that this drive shaft had not gotten greased sufficiently or on schedule, and that's probably what led to the failure, because normally these U-joints last a whole lot longer. It's also possible that at some point the drive shaft was removed and then reinstalled improperly that eventually led to a failure. So I'll take it to the drive shaft shop, have them replace the U-joints, check the slip yoke area, make sure it's in balance, and then we can throw it back in and see how it works. Got the drive shaft back from the drive shaft shop. Looks all shiny, new U-joints, they balanced it. So now we're gonna throw it under the bus and put it back in. Okay, I'm under here, under the bus, getting ready to install the drive shaft. And as you can see, I've got the top of the top cap for the one bearing on the yoke side started. So for these bearing spacer cap type U-joints, they are actually supposed to be able to spin just a little bit within the holes. For most U-joints, you do not want these spinning at all, but for this type, this is intended. And they are supposed to have, they're not quite an interference fit, but it is a very tight fit. So getting them started can be a little bit of a challenge, but I was able to get it going, and you can see that it is able to spin. So I'm gonna snake the drive shaft through here, get it started, and then I'll get the other side in. The bottom looked like actually it was gonna go on easier. So I think doing it this way will work out the best. So let's get going. So one thing that I should note is that I did clean up both of these holes. The top one especially, there were a couple of high spots. The manual says that you can clean them up with some emery cloth. Another tool that worked for me that is similar is this is just a little brake hone, and what's nice is that it helps to keep things circular. So I just put it in, once you get it snapped out. Then I just spun it around a little bit by hand. I didn't actually even use a drill. And then that got everything cleaned out. I test fit both of these caps on to make sure that it looks like they're going to be on just fine. One thing to note, when you get new U-joints for your drive shaft, Spicer includes new hardware, and they specifically say do not reuse the old hardware. So I'm going to go check that in the trash. All right, I've got the yoke at the transmission torqued down. I got all of the Zerks greased up. Since it's the first time they're getting greased, it takes a bit more. So all of this is ready. Now I just got to put the rest of the bus back together, go for a test drive to make sure everything works, but I'm pretty confident it will, given the problem that I found on the U-joint at the differential yoke. I'm back from my trip, and I'm happy to report that the drive shaft is now perfectly smooth. There's no vibration whatsoever, and so this job was a success. Removing a drive shaft from a Prevost or any of these kinds of buses is a fairly routine operation, and it is something that generally needs to happen every time that you tow the vehicle, which hopefully isn't that often, but it's important that it does get removed if you're going to tow it so that you don't end up damaging the transmission. Not all that long ago, but before I owned it, this bus hit a deer and it probably had to get towed, and my guess is that when the drive shaft was reinstalled after that, that's when the cap was installed incorrectly, and that created the problem with the vibration. One of the things to point out with this is that if you do have some noticeable issue that's why you're pulling the drive shaft, it's not unlikely that you're going to run into the kind of situation that I ran into, where I ultimately needed to use my 20-ton floor jack to be able to get the U-joint out. The job itself is really not too difficult, but it is something that you may end up needing some special tools for. It's not something that may just slip right out easily. But overall, this is a pretty simple job, something that you can easily do yourself. Most towns have some kind of truck supply shop that can handle doing the U-joint replacement. Reality is, I think I probably could have done it myself with my 20-ton press, but I was happier letting a drive shaft shop handle this. Hopefully you found this video useful and interesting. Leave any questions down below, and once again, thanks for watching.